friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Ashley Aireonna, joined by the wonderful Tom Jensen. How you doing, Tom?
Doing well, Ashley. How are you?
I'm doing okay. As you know, I got a little bit of an ear infection. I've been traveling a lot for these 49er games, and I'm feeling a little bit run down. But I actually really liked Houston. People were like really down, negative on Houston, and I had a good time. I think I picked a good neighborhood. It feels like LA, where if you try to see it all, it would probably be a mess. But I just stuck to like one good area.
Okay. Well, it's like LA in that there are pockets of greatness and pockets of not.
Yeah, I'm sure. I stayed for anyone watching who I guess is going to go or lives there. I stayed downtown. I wanted to stay in the museum district, but it was a little bit more expensive, I think, because of the games. So I stayed downtown, but the museum district was like a 40-minute walk away. And I like a morning walk, so it wasn't horrible for me. So the 2 days before the game, like I got there on Friday, so I had like a day off. Took a nice morning walk, got like a cup of coffee on the way, and then was able to get like a delicious breakfast in the museum district, walked all around the like Museum of Natural Sciences. It was completely free, huge. Now obviously there was like things inside and different buildings that you could pay extra for, but there was like tons of free options, and walked all around the McGregor flower district, the art museum. There was so much like free. It was very beautiful. There's a lot of like free activities. I went with a friend who tried out a ton of tacos and stuff, and the Mexican food was delicious. I know it's like Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
I thought all the meat and stuff was seasoned really well. I don't really know what the difference between Tex-Mex and normal Mexican is. I think it was a lot of their tacos were flour, but I'm gluten-free, so I always ask for them corn anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't hugely different for me in that way. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I would recommend. Like I said, I liked the museum district a lot. If I could have, I would have stayed down there. The very last day I went to like a little workout class, because in the Bay Area I go to Orange Theory, and they had a location there, and it was like in this like Beverly Hills of Houston area that I didn't understand houses. I was like, there's no way one person lived, like it should be illegal that one person lived there, but I looked it up because I was like, this is crazy that this exists. And it's where Trent Williams' house in Houston is.
Of course.
So I was walking all around. I got some questions for you about this O-line, buddy.
He's got the money. He can do it. Yeah. Good for you, Trent. That's okay.
Yeah.
No worries. No complaints.
I like the idea of trying, like, I know that, by the way, they're back in, they go back to the Bay Area like right away. But I like the idea of him being like, okay, the game's over, I can get done. And then like reporters sitting outside his house like, no, we're not done with you. We have more questions. What's going on with this offensive line? But we'll get into 49ers topics in about 2 minutes. I had one other thing that I wanted to talk about before the show starts. By the way, if I'm screaming, I'm already a little bit deaf in this ear because I've always had ear problems. So I had surgery in this ear forever ago, lost some hearing. This is my good ear, but it's the ear that I have an ear infection. So I might accidentally be like yelling. Hopefully people just, I feel like a lot of podcasters kind of yell. So maybe I'm just doing it for engagement. But once again, a little bit of a downer topic, but I want to get it out there because I do know a lot of our viewers are from the Bay Area, because obviously that's where the 49ers are, and and that's where I'm from. So in San Jose, we're going to be talking about November 1st. The government is supposed to have a shutdown where they no longer are giving out SNAP benefits for people, women, children, men too, anyone in need, people that are disabled, once again, children, people who work full-time but just cannot afford their groceries, rely on SNAP benefits. This hits especially home to me because I grew up as like a kid who had like the government cheese. I actually remember when at one point there was like food stamps where you were like, it literally told you what food you were allowed to get, and you could only get like certain brands of meat, certain brands of dairy, cheese, whatever, eggs. And then there was like a transition to like the EBT card where you could buy whatever, quote unquote, with that. So my mom utilized those, and I just want to say, like, I feel like with Ronald Reagan and everything, there was like the welfare queen is kind of like a prototype that I feel like people think about when they think of people on food stamps, which I think is kind of a way of turning the working class against each other. A lot of people the majority of people who use food stamps have full-time jobs, and they're just not paid an adequate living to support themselves or their family. Or it's made like there are those slim people who are disabled and can't work. In 2020 or 2020, during the COVID era, I ended up helping with a friend of mine. Her dad, who helped me growing up, got cancer, and he could no longer work. So people who get cancer and can't work, people who my dad had, multiple back surgeries growing up. I don't think he was able to use those, but like there are medical emergencies that happen that require you to not work for anywhere from 1 to 1 month to like a year or more. And like these benefits are things that your tax dollars go to. So when you are working, you're, putting money into this, and then you're supposed to, like, as a society, we benefit from people being fed. Because it also, I live in Oakland.
Well, so what I've heard in what you were saying before we went on is that there's restaurants in the Bay Area that are providing food.
Yes.
So let's list those so that folks know if they need to take advantage of that.
Exactly. In Oakland, where I live, there's obviously a lot of crime. A lot of that has to do with poverty, not being able to afford food.
Yeah.
So the Bay Area has kind of came together. There's a lot more resources if you just Google it, but these are the ones that I've seen on my Instagram feed just today. So Tony's Pizza in San Diego is supplying free food for any children who can come in with a SNAP benefit card. So like there won't be any money on the card, but if you just show like I qualify for this,
show proof of the card and you're good. Yeah.
Children will eat for free, and parents or caretakers of those children will eat for a discount. So that's great. That's a pizza shop, and that's San Jose. Then if you're in San Francisco, El Pastor Papi, which is a funny name, but it's the name of the restaurant, downtown San Francisco. If you are SNAP card beneficiary, you'll have free burritos starting November 1st, and you can have up to 4 a day. Those are bean and cheese burritos and chicken burritos, and that's for not only just children but for adults as well. So that's not even discounted. That's completely free 4 a day. And then in Oakland, Monster Pho is doing something similar to the location in San Jose. Your children with the SNAP card will eat for free, and adults will eat for major discounted. And that's every single day. Nice. You can go there every night. It's not like a limited, you can do that one time in November. You can do that every day in November if you want at those locations. And I'm sure there's many more restaurants that will continue to offer things like that. But
good on those folks for making that possible.
I would encourage also, maybe I might do this since I live in the area. If you're not someone who has SNAP benefits, but you appreciate what these restaurants are doing, remembering their name. And if you're ever in town or you live around there, going and supporting that business. Like I said, I live in Oakland, so maybe I'll go. I'm also sick, so maybe I'll go get pho just to and I'll pay because obviously I don't need that, but just to support people that are doing that. Because I love when, as community members, when we stick up for each other.
We get together. Yeah, we support each other. It's a good thing.
So I just wanted to announce those because I saw that and I saw people saying like, hey, share. And, those are 3 different varieties of food that you can get and in 3 major locations in the Bay Area. So, moving on from that, or I guess the last one I should shout out is in Guerneville on Wednesdays. They have a local food bank. I think a lot of people think you have to like literally not be able to afford food to go to a food bank. If you are using a credit card at any point in time, you can go to a food bank. Food banks are for anyone. They give out, pastries, they give out beans, they give out vegetables, they give out fresh fruit. My dad actually donates his time to help the food bank and give out food. And a lot of times at the end, if there's leftover food, he'll bring it back. We always have tons of peaches, fresh grapes, apples, depending on what's in season.
Yeah, good stuff.
So if you're in Sonoma County, that's also an option.
Okay.
But now we'll get into 49ers topics. I just wanted to kind of give that for anyone, since I feel like a lot of the people that watch us are in areas that are similar to that. Tom, like I said, I was in Houston. Tom, I thought a friend of mine plays fantasy football. He usually uses the Rams defense, and the Rams were on a bye week. So he had the choice, and he was like, should I get the 49ers defense or should I get Houston's? And I was like, definitely get the 49ers. We just watched Houston in Seattle. Their offense couldn't do anything. I thought the 49ers were going to win this game, even with Bosa out, even with Fred Warner. I did not anticipate them to look as bad as they looked. It was kind of a, I don't know, sobering game. They definitely looked disgruntled. Any sort of positivity that we felt with the Falcons. I tried to warn people that Christian McCaffrey was not back and that the Falcons were just really bad at defending the run. But Christian McCaffrey looked horrible. This defense did not hold up. Felt like Saleh had a good game plan against the Falcons. I don't know if the Falcons, Michael Penix is just way worse than CJ Stroud, but I did not like Robert Saleh's defensive plan. We'll get into that. I know you touched on it in your article. What was your initial takeaway from the Texans game?
Well, the first, as you're saying in the chat, the Niners just traded for Keon White from the Patriots.
Cool.
2026 6th and 7th going to New England. Keon White is, he's a solid player. He's young, and that can help them. But they needed to do something because they are 2 edges are all they've got going into the Giants game. They only have 2 edges healthy. So they had to do something.
Yeah.
They brought in Cleveland Farrell, Kingsley Jonathan, Andrew Farmer today. I don't know which of those they added, but probably they're going to have to play. Those guys are going to sign off the street and play right away because they just don't have the depth. If you've only got 2 edges on your active roster healthy, that's a problem. They just lost Travis Gibson today. The Niners were debating on if they were going to put him on the 53 permanently or not. While they were debating, Carolina picked him up off the practice squad, and they poached him. And Gibson played half the snaps in the last week against Houston. So they're really struggling. They're lucky that they made this move for Keon White. They needed to get a body. Now they've got somebody that can help them.
He was not good enough to suit up for the Patriots, right?
Well, New England has a good defense this year. They're playing well. They've got a solid record. So, all of that. But yeah, it's just, you need a body. You need a young guy. You need somebody that can fit in permanently. And Keon White does those things. So, I would expect that this might be the move, and that's it. It could be. But hopefully there are more moves forthcoming, but this is the move they had to make. They had to add an edge because you can't go into an NFL game with only 2 edges healthy. That's just, you can't do that.
Let me update the title really quick, but I can't believe this happened while we're streaming, Tom. I feel like these things always happen like right when you get off the stream. Yeah. Can you tell me anything about when was this guy drafted?
I don't know. I would have to look it up. I don't have it off the top of my head at all.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna oh, never mind. Can I not do that? Okay. What's happening? How do I exit out of here? I clicked on something and now I can't click out of it. That's good. Keon White. 49ers have been actively shopping for a pass rusher ever since Nick Bosa suffered a season-ending ACL injury. Keon White is the answer. He had 5 sacks last season. Other people said not good enough to suit up for the Patriots, but the 49ers obviously are in a tough position with all their injuries. I'm just going to Google him really quick and what he's done. I hope this is not their only move, Tom. He's 26 years old.
Yeah, well, I think this is a reaction to the immediate need of getting an edge for the Giants game.
Just get someone on the
Yeah,
for
it's
Deshaun
they
Watson.
need a body desperately because you can't go into a game with only 2 edges. So that's why this move was made. Do I think it's the only move they'll make? I hope not. But
So it's
this
for
was a move designed to deal with the immediate problem of not having enough edges. I don't think this is a solution by any stretch, but
so
it still fills a key need because they've got to have bodies to play the Giants, especially when they're playing on MetLife.
he was drafted in 2023 in the second round. Had 4 sacks in his first 2 games in 2024, but then has only had 2 sacks since then up until last season where he had 4. So
Yeah. Well, there's a
no one
reason he wasn't playing for New England.
got it.
But nonetheless, you're still getting something, and that's what this is about. So I wouldn't say that oh, the Niners got a great trade here. No, it's they got what they needed for the next game. Period. End of story. That's what this is. Nothing more.
This doesn't do you think this takes away the possibility of them trading or later
No.
a different subject or a different banner that I
No,
use?
I don't think so because you look at the compensation, and thanks 49er Media for giving it to us, 6th and 7th. So, they've still got better compensation that they can offer. I mean, the estimations for next year's draft, they'll have 3 comp picks in the 4th round. That's going to be their primary trade bait, and that can get a player a lot better than Keon White.
Okay. Do you obviously they needed a guy going into the Giants game, but do you think it's still this doesn't take away the possibility of them going and getting Thibodeau after the Giants game if he's available, right?
If he's available. The Giants have said to media, we are not making him available. And
I know, but they just
that's plausible. You always say that before the deadline, but at the same time, he is under contract. They exercised his option. So he's under contract for 2026. So what the Giants could be saying is, if we don't if somebody's not going to seriously overpay for Thibodeau right now, we're going to hang on to him and we will trade him at the draft or we will trade him at the next deadline, but we won't trade him now. I think that's what's going on. And Cincinnati said the same thing about Trey Henderson. We're not moving him either.
Yeah.
And the Raiders said the same thing about Max Crosby. I mean, it's just everybody's playing these games. The only teams that are saying that we've got edges available are Miami and the Jets. And that might end up being a feeding frenzy. Says, okay, that's where we can get the good edges this year. And then Philadelphia is going to throw a ton of picks at Miami to get Chubb, probably. But it depends on who's the best available. The head of the line to get the best available is Philly because they've got the most picks to use, and Howie Roseman is really aggressive, their GM.
Okay. I guess the good thing that you would say with the trade for now is that the 49ers are apparently only giving up a 2026 6th round and 7th round. So assets, you need a body. And like you're saying, if you're saying this guy is not necessarily a starter caliber player,
he's a depth piece. He's a depth piece
they
only.
Can still go out and get a starter if they wanted to be aggressive. Like you're saying, they might not because we haven't seen them be aggressive this offseason or this season / the off. But if they wanted to be, this does not take away that opportunity because it's not
at all. No. Because look what they gave up, a 6th and a 7th. That doesn't impact what they would have to give for Kayvon Thibodeau or Hendrickson or whoever. If they want to get somebody that's higher quality, they're going to have to give up a lot more. But if you give up a 6th and a 7th, you're going to get a player like Keon White. So you give what you get. So you're getting a body for the Giants game, and you're getting a depth piece that can be part of the rotation and get some snaps here and there going forward. But he's not the answer as far as what they need to do at edge. They need to do better. They need to get a lot better than that. Who they can get depends on who is truly available. And then you have to deal with, out of that group, Philadelphia is going to poach whoever the best player is because they'll be willing to overpay for it. And then it's who else is shopping for an edge and how willing are the Niners to be aggressive to get somebody they want.
Can I ask you a question? This came up in my stream after the game. Do the 49ers owe it to themselves, the fight to Trent Williams, to George Kittle, even Christian McCaffrey, the older guys on the team, to be aggressive, because I feel like there is this, the way that I'm looking at this team right now, is that they could finish, 9-8, maybe even 10 if they like. This was a very bad loss, in my opinion, that doesn't rule out, like, if they could lose to the Texans the way they did, they could lose to any team, especially because it felt like the energy from the players was gone. The game plan from both coaching sides was gone. We'll get into that more. But let's say it's just a fluke game. Should the 49ers trade at, like, I'm of the mind that it's a possibility that they get to the playoffs. Just losing them, like, they're going against really bad teams. But when I'm watching them play, there's zero, like, to me, the playoffs seem very, very much in sight. The Super Bowl is completely out of the question in my head. I'm like, it's not even, it's the reason I think the playoffs are in sight is because of the schedule that the 49ers have, not because of my confidence in this 49ers team.
Yeah, it's more about who they're playing than who they are.
So is it smart to give up a lot of assets to make a run when you're
no. But it's smart to make a move for players that can be part of your equation long term.
Which rules out Hendrickson, right? The Bengals guy?
Hendrickson, if you make a trade for Hendrickson, then you also have to commit to paying him. And he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. He's 30. He wants to get paid more than $30 million a year. Are the Niners willing to do that? They've apparently been aggressive in calling Cincinnati about him, and the Bengals are saying no. But that's what it would mean, is somebody like Hendrickson, you would have to commit up front to saying how much we're going to spend on this, because we can't give up these huge assets and then he walks. You can't afford that. So you would have to make sure that you had a plan in place where you talk to his agent and say, okay, let's figure out what the extension is going to be going forward. That's the only way that you could do something like Hendrickson. But if I had to guess, I think Hendrickson will remain in Cincinnati. They will use him as trade bait at the draft, but not now.
We're jumping topics because we're talking about, because the 49ers just made a trade, I feel like we might as well just hit the trade topic altogether.
Yeah, we might as well.
Aside from another defensive lineman, which I think even with the addition that they just made, they need a better player on that defensive line. But outside of the defensive line, we got a comment that said, screw this defense, our offense can't score. So do you think that, by the way, everyone who's talking about, we know we just talked about it. Thank you so much in the chat. If you are just joining us right now, go back 10 minutes. We talked about it. But I appreciate you. Aside from Keion White, I think they need to make a trade if they want to make more of a run in the playoffs. I think that they need to make a trade for another defensive lineman, and then perhaps in their secondary, which you have been, hinting that these safeties on this 49ers team are atrocious. Marquise Siegel wasn't even out there, which I think was an interesting decision this week. That
needed to happen. He was that bad in coverage. They had to.
Got it.
But so what moves do they make? So let's finish up with edge. Hendrickson, I don't think that's going to happen. Thibodeau, I don't think that's going to happen either. So the top of the list is the Miami edges. That's Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Phillips is younger. Phillips has had injury problems, though. So you have to deal with that. He's healthy now, but he has an injury history, including ACLs. The Jets have a player the Niners are interested in, Jermaine Johnson. He's another one that would fit. Saleh knows his skill set. Saleh knows how to use him. And we saw with Bryce Huff that when Saleh knows how to use a player, that player could be effective for him. So Jermaine Johnson's another one. Kingsley Enagbare, who was in the draft a few years ago from Penn State, from Green Bay. He's not getting time for Green Bay because they added Micah Parsons, and he could be available. The Penn State lineage, so to speak, Micah Parsons, Penn State, Enagbare, Penn State. That program produces good defensive ends. Another one that they can look at is Arden Key and bringing him back. Tennessee is hemorrhaging, and so he could be another one that they look at. But if I had to say, I would think that what the Niners want, to answer your question, Badass, is if the Niners had their choice, it would be Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips. That would be the top of their list. Then I think it goes down to Jermaine Johnson with the Jets, and then it's whoever. And probably they would settle on, say, Arden Key. I think that's what they're looking at. And the problem, again, is that there are a lot of teams looking to trade because the league's wide open this year. So there's going to be a lot of people active and some teams selling. And so it's who uses up their draft resources in trade to get the Miami edges. Will the Niners compete in that? Yes. Can they win it? It depends on if Hendrickson and Thibodeau stay put. If they do, teams will overpay for the Miami guys and the Niners are left out. And then they have to go down to Johnson, then Key, then Enagbari.
Do you think that they'll make a move for any of the guys? I mean,
yeah, I think they will make a move. It's just that what move can they make will depend on which edges are truly available. Okay. If I'm right that Hendrickson and Thibodeau are not available, then other teams are going to get the Miami edges, and that puts the Niners saying, okay, Jermaine Johnson is now our first choice, and then it's Arden Key and Enagbari. But I think that one of those three will probably be a Niner.
Okay. And you think that they'll wait till after the trade, or not but the final day of the trade deadline for those to happen?
Yeah, because there's so much activity and so much interest. There's a lot of people saying this could be the most active trade deadline ever. If it is, then the teams are going to be motivated to not sell until the last moment. They're going to put players on eBay and just wait for the bids to come in and pick the highest one. And so they're under no reason to make a deal early. And I don't think they will. And John Lynch doesn't like paying a premium for having to get somebody early. He didn't pay a premium for Keon White, but then that's because it's Keon White. If you're going up against players that you really want, then you're going to have to wait until the deadline.
Yeah. M. Debris says the 49ers need pressure up the middle. Edge is not happening. I think the 49ers need to be able to rush the passer right now. That's their number one issue. I mean, they drafted Michael Williams. I think they knew he wasn't. I've seen a lot of people say he needs to step up. To some extent, I agree, but to the other extent, he's 20 years old. They knew that he was not a pass rusher at this time. They banked on the fact that Nick Bosa would stay healthy and that they could work in conjunction with each other, and expecting that Michael is, in 2 months of playing football, going to all of a sudden develop his pass rusher skills and, fill in for Nick Bosa, to me is a little bit unrealistic. They knew that he was more of a edge setter, run defender type guy. And they hope, I say present tense, not even just in past tense, but when they drafted them, to me, they knew who he was, and they still feel this way now, is that he can develop those skills. But that stuff doesn't happen until year 2, year 3, with a full offseason of training. And honestly, working with Chris Kocurek, but also with Nick Bosa and stuff, who's not even there right now to really teach him if that were possible.
It's just quickly on Michael. They drafted him thinking he can be the next Eric Armstead. So they start him on the outside. They move him inside for pass rush this year. Long term, they're probably going to move him to defensive tackle. One of the quotes after they picked him was basically, look how big this kid is at 20. What's he going to be like at 24?
Yeah.
They're thinking in terms of the physical projection of what he'll be at 24. And when he's that big, he can't play edge. He'll be too big. And so you have to move him inside. But I think that's going to be the plan. And he wasn't a great pass rusher to begin with. It's just he was winning on physicality. And now he has to win on moves, and he can't. But he's still drawing double teams. He's still playing a role. He's still being effective in a way. But Michael was always a project. This is Eric Armstead 2, and it's going to take 3 years. It will. And until then, especially in the rookie year, he's not going to be a guy that produces a ton of stats.
Yeah. To me, it's unfair or unfair might be a harsh word, but the 49ers kind of constantly do this where they're drafting people. They have a need and they draft someone based on projection for the future. And then fans are like, okay, well, we still have this hole right now. And it's like, okay, well, it's not that guy's fault. He was never supposed to come in and fill that hole today. It's more on the 49ers. If you're going to be critical of anyone, be critical of Kyle, the GM / John Lynch, because those are the guys who, are aware that there's issues on the offensive line, that they're aware that there's, no other pass rusher that's very effective on this team aside from Nick Bosa. And they let those holes exist. And then now they're, just being magnified because of all the injuries that are on that defense as well. So,
right.
they've
got to go. Yeah,
there.
They have to go get an edge and target an edge that can be a young guy as the third defensive end and be a part of a key rotation. And then as a way of managing the injury risk with Bosa and Huff, that you have a good, solid third edge that can plug in and start if necessary. And if they stay healthy, then they've still got a great rotation, which makes everybody more effective. So my approach to this trade deadline is add the skill sets you need.
Yeah.
But make sure it's long-term. No rentals. Try to get younger guys if you can, and get guys that you see fitting long-term that can be here for the next 3 to 4 years and contribute and figure out, okay, we don't need a starting edge to replace Bosa. We need a third edge as a depth piece long-term. And so that's why you then end up with Jalen Phillips, Jermaine Johnson, players like that.
Got it. Eric Gomez makes a good point, and I think when you say that it's all going to come down to the trade deadline, this is kind of what you're saying too. Lots of teams are in the shopping of players right now, and I think it's because all around the league, much like with the 49ers, I feel like 1 week we're like, oh, is Kyle Shanahan coach of the year? And then the next week we're like, they're missing the playoffs and everyone should get fired. A lot of teams look like that around the NFL right now. There's not, maybe the Chiefs are coming back to dominance. I think they've won a couple games in a row.
Yeah.
The Bills, 1 week they'll look fantastic. The next week they'll get beat by what others would consider a bad team. The Ravens haven't been healthy, so they don't look good. It's kind of wide open. I guess you would say in the NFC, would you say the Lions and Eagles are at the top of it? But
and Green Bay and the Rams.
But you're right.
The reason why everybody is saying, the reason everybody's saying that this trade line is going to be so active is because there is no dominant team. There's a lot of teams that are saying
they have a chance.
Right. If I make this trade, I can compete. I could get to the Super Bowl. A lot of teams are thinking that way, which leads to a very busy trade deadline. The problem for the Niners is how many people are actually making available edges. Miami and the Jets. It's kind of it. Keon White, okay, a body, and as John points out in the chat, a former second-round pick, but a second-round bust, though. And that's why he wasn't playing. Yeah. So you can't just use the second-round pick and say, okay, that's cachet. It's if they can coach him up and make him great, okay, phenomenal. But it does speak to he has some physical skills that they can develop, and we'll see if they can do that. But this can't be it for them because they're still going to need that third pass rusher going forward. And if they can make a deal now for that edge, that's somebody they can take off of their draft board and gives them more opportunity to get an offensive line built.
Yeah. Michael says that I should play. Don't be, look at this. Okay. I did 10 push-ups 3 times today. Back to back.
There you go.
And my ear was hurting. And my ear was hurting while I was doing it. Imagine if I had a healthy ear. Okay. I'm basically coming off the bench on IR, putting that up.
That's right.
Underestimate me.
You're competing hurt. And as John says, Tom, they need 2 more edges. They do. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is they're probably going to just add 1 more in trade in addition to Keon White. We'll see.
Have you been doubting Chris Kocurek? We've had a couple. This is not the only comment. There was one earlier that said the 49ers keep drafting no names and expecting Chris Kocurek to, work miracles, but it doesn't seem to be happening. I agree with the people who are a little bit down on Chris Kocurek. I was mad during the 49ers game where Fred Warner got hurt and there was only 4 defensive linemen on the field. To me, that's his only job is to be looking at that. I don't know how he didn't call a timeout. Obviously, that's also on Kyle and Robert Saleh. All 3 of them made that mistake. But yeah, I think maybe if you look back to like Charles Omenihu, I feel like there's been like one.
He's developed, guys. Here's the thing with Kocurek. The pattern is this. The rookies don't develop and the veterans do.
Yeah.
We need to, and that's an important fact.
Yeah, like
Because
when they draft nobody,
who's the draft pick that you've developed? You want to say Bosa? He was developed at Ohio State. He developed ready-made. He didn't need to learn anything else. He was already coached by the best, and he was the best. What have they done to advance Bosa's game? They haven't. And so the rookies, all these rookie picks, what have they done? Who have they developed? It's not a lot. You can say Eric Armstead, okay. Buckner,
Kinlaw,
okay.
Drake Jackson.
But again, those are players who were developed prior. Where's the ball of clay pick that they developed into a good player? And so that would be like Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, and those guys did nothing.
That didn't work out.
So I think that the knock on Kocurek is he can develop veterans, but not rookies.
Tom,
that's a real problem.
When they drafted Drake Jackson, sorry to interrupt, but it's just crazy. If you go back to like his draft video, fans were they hyped him up so much. I thought he was going to be the next Nick Bosa. He played like 3 games for this team, didn't do anything. I think he got like a coverage sack his first game. People freaked out, and then he played like 3 more games and never played again.
Yeah, he had like 3 sacks in one game. And I was saying, okay, good, he's here now, and then he did nothing since.
Then that was it. That was the highlight of his career.
So be it. John says in the chat, looking at Carl Granderson and Kayvon Thibodeau, the Giants have said they're not going to trade Thibodeau, and they've got him under contract next year. Granderson's a great talent. I think he's a really good player, but he makes $18 million per for the next 2 years. I don't think the Niners are going to be willing to spend that much on him.
Well, they need to get over themselves with the money thing. Is this guy injury prone? Because that's what I would ask. I would say they need to stop being frugal.
He's a vet. He gets injured now and then, but he's not. He doesn't have like Bosa's injury history, for example. But I think that the problem for the Niners is they look at that $18 million, 2026 and 2027, and say, no, we're not doing that.
I would disagree really quick with Cobra. I don't think this D-line was bad under Robert Saleh his first time around or under D'Amico Ryans. It definitely struggled with Steve Wilkes a little bit, but their secondary was way better. I mean, Jair Brown's about to like get cut from the 49ers, and he had a career year with him. Brandon Staley didn't make much out of the defense on, the D-line or the back end or any part of it. I guess there was Nick Sorensen. So those were the 3 coordinators you were talking about, but I would say that might be more to do with those coordinators not being none of those coordinators are currently defensive coordinators in the NFL. And I think that tells you that maybe
says a lot.
Yeah. That's a little bit on that.
It tells you that they shouldn't have been defensive coordinators here.
Yeah.
But, so be it.
But what I would say, I want to move off of, I think you've done a good job at giving defensive tackles that we want to continue to have the team. For anyone
defensive tackles, though, that's a different thing. There's one player who's available at defensive tackle, Quinnen Williams from the Jets. He's demanded a trade. Former All-Pro under Saleh.
Okay.
If they could get him, that would be huge. What's the cost? I don't know. Yeah, the rumor is from ESPN that the Jets are asking for a 2nd-round pick for him. I would pay that.
Yeah,
whether the Niners are willing to do that, I don't know, but Quinnen Williams would help them tremendously.
Yeah, I was going to say
whether the Jets are willing to do that, we'll see.
Like he might be more incentivized. Like if he's getting a lot of offers, he could potentially tell other teams like, I want to go play for this guy. Because a lot of times I feel like players who end up having a regression, like if you're on the Jets, they're like, okay, I know that guy can make me look good, and that's going to result in me being in the league longer, making more money, all that. So he might also help.
It's the same effect as Bryce Huff. If I can play under Robert Saleh, I know that I'm going to be optimized and I'm going to look great. And Huff is proof of that. Quinnen Williams here would be proof of that too.
So, Tom, do you think that they're going to make trades for non-defensive line players, whether that's in the secondary?
I doubt it. I think that the only move they're going to make is edge. They'll get another edge, and I think that'll be it. Whether that's what they should do, I wouldn't. I would be active of saying that, okay, we've got a lot of holes on this team. We've got players that are available because it's the deadline. We don't draft well. Okay, let's keep our first-round pick.
Get rid of the picks. Like, what are you doing with them?
Right. Well, and what was Kyle's most effective trade? It's trading for Trent and McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey's a great one.
And what did they do with McCaffrey?
Did they get another running back?
Right. Well, they refused to give up a first, but they gave up a ton of second, third, fourths to get him. And I think that's the kind of thinking that they need to apply now is if we use those picks for the right player, it's worth it. McCaffrey proved that. Trent has proved that. So, okay, who are those players? Quinnen Williams would be one of them. At linebacker, another Jet, Quincy Williams, who's very good in pass coverage and great against the run and smart and a vet. He would fit. Logan Wilson from Cincinnati, also a pass coverage linebacker. He would fit. I think that they need one of those because there's no one on the roster other than Fred who can cover among their linebackers. D. Winters is a liability in coverage. So is Tatum Bethune. So is the rest of them. Nick Martin doesn't even play because his diagnostics are too poor. He can't be a pass coverage linebacker either. So they need to add one. And you've got two guys who are 29, proven vets who can really play. Quincy Williams is a great two-way defender at linebacker. He can defend the run and the pass equally. And I think it'd be great for this team to have really smart veterans in the middle and then have kids with great athletics that are surrounding them in the perimeter. I think that's a good way to build a team, build a D. So I would go after Quincy Williams too.
Love that, Tom.
But will they? No.
Why not?
So much for that. DB and safety, there's some guys that are available. I think the Rams made a really smart move getting Roger McCreary. I think that was an excellent trade for them, and that helps them right before they play the Niners. Smart move. There's other DBs and safeties that are out there, but I don't think the Niners will prioritize doing that. I don't see them having the interest. So that's it on defense. On offense, there's one receiver that I think would be a perfect fit. That's Chris Olave from the Saints. Great route runner, former high first round pick. But ESPN says there's only a 20% chance that he gets dealt. If he gets dealt, you would probably have to overpay. But I think that Olave would be somebody the Niners should pursue if the Saints are truly interested in doing it. If they're not, then the guy that's getting talked up is Rashid Shaheed. And he could go, but there's a lot of teams that are interested in him. I don't think the Niners would be willing to compete to win that bid for him. So I think it's a Olave or bust for them at wide receiver. And then quickly, the Saints are looking to get rid of Rashid. And so running back is the last one. I would go get Breece Hall, who is a great runner receiver who played with Purdy at Iowa State, who's only 25, who can really play.
Yeah.
I would love to get Breece Hall. But
do you just think that's not?
But it's Kyle. And so Kyle's going to say, I don't need that. I've got Christian. Okay. How long?
Christian has been averaging
Christian is 3.1 yards per carry.
On the season. Yeah.
And the rumor of the week is that Christian has been overheard to say that he wants to go to wide receiver because he get paid more. And so moving Christian to the slot and then getting another running back would be a great move. And if you could make that running back Breece Hall, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But
Christian
I don't hear of any interest by the Niners in doing that.
Christian has been better as a wide receiver this year anyways. Like, why not save his body the extra beating? I would love something like that. I mean, think about how impactful the trade for Christian himself was at the time. It's a couple of years later, but a similar move could really help them. I don't know why the Jets are selling. Go do it.
Right. Well, and the other factor is look at Kyle's record in drafting running backs. It's woeful. These guys that are all busts. The only running back he's drafted so far that had anything was Mitchell. And he got hurt.
Yeah.
So that was it. It's
whatever
every other draft pick has failed.
Jordan
James trade for a back. And Breece Hall's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Feels like
frustrating.
This draft, I mean, Nick Martin didn't see the field. Jordan James hasn't seen the field. Jordan Watkins dropped his first NFL pass. Yeah, it hasn't been a great draft so far for the 49ers this year. I feel like a lot of people overhyped that one year and they were like, look, they're back to being good at drafting. And it's like, nope, that was a fluke. I love the Breece Hall idea, Tom. You're probably not going to do it, but I hate that you even put that in my head because I'm like, that would be so
that would be a great move for them because then you would get your running back, you would get your workhorse. It would force you to then say, okay, we can put both backs in the backfield now and then, but we primarily use Christian as a slot receiver. You're optimizing your players because Christian as a runner is kind of done. He's in sunset.
The chat makes a good point where they say, some of the issues with running back right now is the offensive line.
Partially, it is.
I would say it's conjunction. I think, one, Christian McCaffrey has lost a step, and then two, the offensive line is also terrible. So this kind of brings me to a different / similar topic, though. I don't think a trade for offensive line can be done, Tom. I think they have to wait till the draft.
Yeah. No, they're going to have to wait till the draft because there's very few teams who will make an offensive lineman available in the deadline because they're so valuable. The supply-demand imbalance at offensive line is the worst in the league.
Yeah.
And that's why offensive linemen aren't dealt. It was really rare that even Chris Dahlman was available in free agency. Normally that doesn't even happen. Now, all the more reason why they should have done that.
And then the center looked horrible against the Texans trying to block.
Well, here's the sad truth. Hennessy is worse than Brendel.
He looked so bad.
That tells you everything.
Why didn't they go out and get Drew Dolman? I wonder if he would have looked better, Tom. Do you think he would perform better against
money?
I think so.
Money. That's why.
Who is often, I feel like, very, very pro Niners. He kind of suggested he came out and said that there was multiple times on film that either Matt Hennessy with Jawan Jennings blocking were put on Anderson, and he was like, these are some of the best defensive linemen in the entire league. This is a scheme issue. That, yes, these guys did badly.
It's scheme and talent.
Because
the talent is.
Yes, they didn't do good, but also you should never expect these guys to do good against a guy like this. And he kind of blamed it on the scheme, which to me is on Kyle. I was shocked to see. I feel like you would say something like that, but I was shocked for Sherman to be so upfront about that. The 49ers just don't have the talent to go up against some of these guys right now.
And they get mismatches
that they've made.
Yeah, it's a choice from Kyle, both in terms of a cap strategy and a personnel strategy. He wants to save money on the cap by not spending on offensive line, and that goes back to the guy that was the running back coach or the O-line coach for his father in Denver. Alex Gibbs, the father of the wide zone, said you don't need the first-round lineman with long arms at tackle. You can get guys in the later rounds for my system. Kyle took that to heart, and that's why we've seen what we've seen. But now the offensive line is so bad that it's sinking this team. They don't have pass protection. They don't have run holes. All of that factors in. So when you say Christian has lost production, part of that is the line, but part of that is him. And that happens. He's 29. He's coming off an Achilles injury. He's not going to be that great.
The knee injury as well? Yeah.
And the knee. Yeah. And so the way I look at it is 2023, he had long gains of 75, 60, 63, I think, and 51. And in 24 and 25 combined, his long is 19. He did that once, and then a couple of runs for 15. Yeah. You can't tell me that that's not on Christian. It is.
Yeah. By the time you're 15 yards down the field, it's no longer on the offensive line. It's on you. That's
it's partially the line because that sets up your run. If you don't have freedom to move, that can compromise your yards. I agreed. But there are plays where you can see is an opening. There is a lane, and Christian just doesn't have his fifth gear anymore. And that's why it's a 19, 15-yard run. Yeah. That's on him. Yeah, granted, the offensive line sucks. No question. But Christian has lost a step. So to answer your question on what can be done with the O-line draft, and so what will they do? Here's the first thing that I really don't like. One of the top tackles is from Utah. It's a guy named Caleb Lomu, left tackle for them, really good in pass protection and aggressive in the run. They did not send a scout to BYU, Utah.
Why?
BYU is the best team that Utah plays, the highest ranked team. And so why didn't you send a scout to that?
Yeah.
You're seeing him play his best competition during the regular season, and you don't scout it. That tells me they're not looking at Lomu. They should. They aren't. Is that now something we can say that means they're not going to look at tackle for the first round? It could be.
That'd be insane, right, Tom?
It would. And so we'll see. The teams that they have scouted heavily are Oregon and OSU, which is common. That's what you should be doing. Oregon has a tackle, Isaiah World. He's quick, he's athletic, he's good, but he doesn't set his anchor well, and he got overwhelmed against Penn State, who has great edges. So do you really want Isaiah World to be your first-round pick? Probably not. And so now it starts to look at, now what are they going to do? And here's the saving grace for O-line. This is a great year for centers. That there's a center from Auburn. There's a center from Florida who are really good. Jake Slaughter from Florida, I like him a lot. There's a center from Oregon who's really good. Samoan guy. So it worked with Jesse Sapolu. Maybe it can work again this time. But there's some depth and quality depth at center. And that's where I think that's where the O-line help will come. It might not be at tackle, which would be insane. But if they're not scouting Lomu, that tells me a lot.
What are they going to do about Trent? They need a replacement for Trent at some point.
Sure they do. But are they going to use a first-round pick on it? Maybe not. Could they end up using a first-round pick on a center instead? Maybe. Or a center in the second would be the best value, because that's where the center from Florida could go early second. The center from Oregon could go anywhere from late first to mid-second. So if you get one of those guys, I think that would be good. But in looking at what they plan to do in the draft and trying to analyze what I think Kyle will do, there's a couple of problems here. One is they could look to trade up for the running back. There's one running back in the first that's good, the kid from Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. And there's one tight end who's good, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, who they love. And so they could trade up for him. I could see that in a heartbeat. They've tried to get tight end for years and failed. And now Kittle is getting hurt and out for 4 weeks and 32. They need another tight end. They need a young guy. I could see them trading up for Sadiq. I think that's a possibility. But offensive tackle, I'm worried.
Yeah, to me, I'm with John right here. They need to be O-line first next year. With everything going on.
Is that realistic when Kyle is the de facto GM? No.
There's been
you can look at it, you can apply the logic of it and say this is what they have to do. Yeah. I would agree with you, and Ashley would agree with me, and her dad would agree with me. We would all say first three picks on offensive line, absolutely right. Do it.
Like it's not even just like that. Like I've wanted them to do that for years to get people ready. But at this point, it's not even about getting people ready. It's like you're going to have open, like they expect Trent to play until he's 46. Like, what the hell? I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean?
The parallel that I draw is the Niners in 1981. In 1980, they had the worst secondary in the league. They were Swiss cheese. They got killed. They were horrible against the pass. And so they say, okay, Bill Walsh says, all right, I'm going to go into this draft and I'm going to fix the problem. And so he takes Ronnie Lott in the first, Eric Wright in the second, Carlton Williamson in the third. Those guys form the core of their secondary for the next 10 years. Problem solved in one draft. Hall of Famer, the most underrated Niner of all time in Eric Wright, in my opinion. And Carlton Williamson was a Pro Bowler. And they got those guys. That's what you need to do. You have to do that. And as your dad says, keeping Kyle as head coach means keeping Kyle as GM. That's the issue. There's a lot of people that say, don't fire Kyle. I would fire Kyle as GM. I would strip him of his personnel authority and say, nope, we're going to bring in an outside GM. Chances of them doing that, 0. And so Kyle is going to be the GM long term. Matt Mayoko just wrote a column about how Kyle is likely to stay for the foreseeable future. That means Kyle is your GM, and that means you go ringless. Why? Offensive line. So we're stuck with this. Kyle has to evolve. Until he does, this team can't go forward. It can't go to the top of the mountain. It can get to the Super Bowl. It can't win it. And they lost the Super Bowl twice because the offensive line was overmatched.
They have almost a billion with a B, players that are either on different teams or injured, not playing for them. And a big portion of that is because those players are injured because they don't have a good offensive line.
Yeah, it all contributes. It's part of why they
can't get off the field. The Texans game, the 49ers played, their team was on offense for only 18 minutes. The Texans had 45. Like, you're going to lose that game no matter how good you are. And by the way, I also agree with the comment that the offense was very slow, but even if they were playing fast, like if you can't get off the field, your defense, it's more likely that defensive players are going to get injured when they're playing down after down like that, not getting a chance to breathe and to reset themselves. Then when
and that's why, I'm sorry to interject.
The quarterback is either running for his life or getting sacked or throwing the ball away, depending on which quarterback it is. But like not having an offensive line affects the entire team as a whole negatively.
Sure. Yeah. Because the offensive line is the rising tide that lifts all boats. It allows your quarterback to stay healthy, your running back to dominate, your run game to take the clock. You move the chains, and by moving the chains, you play complementary football and help your defense. It has spillover effects everywhere. Now, why did the Niners have so much trouble getting stops on third? Because they don't have an edge. Yeah. The Niners are last in the league in sacks after Bosa got hurt. That's not an accident. And that's why they need to keep going after edges, because until they do that, they're going to keep giving up third down conversions. The reason they're getting killed with these long drives is no edge. You have to have a pass rush. And then Saleh will send a blitz on occasion, but he blitzes slow guys. You're going to blitz Jair. Good luck. He's too slow. He's not going to close on the quarterback. You have to close speed. You have to blitz speed. And when he blitzed Upton Stout, Stout got there. When he blitzed Chase Lucas, Lucas got there. You have to blitz speed. That's the main flaw or concern that I have with Saleh's blitz packages. Stop making the slow guy the blitzer. Ain't going to work. Get more speed get that tackle against the QB. Bring him down. Speed does that. Slow doesn't.
Tom, while we're talking about speed, I think that also kind of translates a little bit to aggression. I talked about this in my post-game stream where I talked about the 49ers. They were down 2 scores and they acted like they had, they could just do 8-minute drives or something. They don't go hurry up on offense.
Kyle doesn't even practice hurry up. It's not in his lexicon. And that's always been a flaw of the team. But when he just says, okay, Mac, you take care of it. Here's the plays that to call in sequence or whatever. Here's the bundle of plays to call. And Mac Jones moves him down the field because he's great when he gets to play in rhythm at speed. And Kyle needs to pay attention to that and say, okay, this team works when it's got a rhythm going, when they play quicker. I need to not have 8 guys in motion. I need to get the play in sooner. I need to build a rhythm. They're not doing that except for end of the half, end of the game.
They're actually good when they do play that
way. Right. And
then
they're successful. That's my big thing is if you have success, why don't you keep building on that success? I don't get that.
Okay. And then that was talking about the offensive lack of speed and aggression, but also on defense. And I saw Grant talk about this in his post game, and then I saw you put it in your article. Robert Saleh, who we can all agree has done, pulled lots of rabbits out of a hat this season. And you and I, even on our last stream, was like, you can only do that so much. The 49ers had 5 in-game injuries going into the game. They were already down to their, second and third stringers on defense. Then they had 5 defensive injuries during the game. So part of it is just like, what do you expect him to do? But also, the Texans offense was not their starters out there either. They were dealing with injuries, especially on offense. And Robert Saleh was playing soft zone coverage. Why did he make this decision? What did you make out of it? What did you make of it? I saw you talk about it in your article. I'd like you to.
Yeah, well, Saleh was looking to prevent explosives. He wanted to keep all the catches in front of the DBs and safeties. That was his way of protecting the safeties who he knows are vulnerable. And so he was just saying that eventually CJ Stroud's going to make a mistake. The problem is that CJ Stroud only makes mistakes when he's pressured. When he's got all day to throw, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's top 10 with time. And so in this game, he had all the time in the world and he killed him. And so Saleh had to adjust and didn't, because he was worried that they would get big scores if he played tight coverage, because it's another sign of Saleh's lack of faith, really, in the DBs and especially the safeties. The safeties just aren't good. Malik Mustafa is in transition to getting into game shape. I think he'll be a lot better over the next couple of weeks, but the other safety is just trash.
And just kind of feels like they bet when you look at the Falcons game, Michael Penix could not have put out an 8-minute drive without making a mistake. And it feels like they bet that CJ Stroud would also make a mistake, and he didn't.
Because he's a different quarterback when he's protected.
They executed their drives perfectly, and they held on the ball, keeping the 49ers offense off the field, and the 49ers just couldn't score that way. The defense couldn't get off the field, and CJ Stroud did not make mistakes. The Texans offense, to me, they win the game saying this is how we're going to protect our secondary, and we're basically betting that eventually the Texans will make a mistake on offense, and they didn't. They protected the football for the most part up until I know there was the one interception right before the half, but then Deommodore Lenoir lost his mind and didn't go out of bounds. Yeah. He actually had to go out of his way to not go out of bounds. If you read,
he was thinking he had to score as opposed to kill the clock. Yeah. Well, it's just Solon needed to adjust and didn't. I mean, if you're going to play soft coverage, then you need to have a pass pressure from your D-line, and your D-line can't do that. And so when you do both of those, where you play soft coverage and you can't get to the quarterback, he'll dice you up. And that's what Stroud did. And this is a scouting mistake in a way, in that Stroud is really good with time and really bad under pressure. And so if you have a game plan that basically allows him to sit there and wait, he'll slice you up, and he did. So that's a big part of this, but so be it. Lesson learned, I hope, and that they'll have to know that there's got to be some adjustments in what they do in simulated pressure and blitz packages and how they go about covering. Yeah, because Israel's right. There was no pressure. And then the Niners, it's getting really bad. I mean, 4 sacks since Bosa, that's really bad.
I wanted to address one of the, if I can pull it up, because it was directed at me. Good Day, basically, I don't know if I can pull up the comment for some reason, but Good Day asked us, he said, I know it probably won't happen, but if there was a world where they could take away some GM power from Kyle Shanahan, but keep him as a head coach, would you be okay with that?
I would. I'd be all over that. Sure.
Yes.
But
if you look at Bill Belichick, if you look at Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's dad, there's this issue that happens with coaches when they get too much power and they're in charge. They start failing as a GM, and it's like they're not going to – once you give them that power, it seems to be you either fire them and move on completely, or they have that power. There's this step down.
Yeah, there's no in between.
That's not an adjustment that I feel like Kyle will accept. But if he would, I would be okay.
If he would, sure. And that's what I've been saying this for years. Kyle, as shadow GM, has to be fired from that role, or the Niners aren't going anywhere, because his bias is so outdated on the offensive line, it kills them. It prevents rings, and has twice already. And so you've got to adjust. So, so to Good Day, if you could just take the GM stuff away from Kyle, that would optimize the team. But you would also need to bring in an outside GM who knows how to build a team and doesn't do stuff like, I'm going to draft 10 offensive linemen in 10 years and 17 wide receivers. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that stops them from winning a ring. You need to have a real GM. But once they gave Kyle the power, you gave Kyle Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, he's not going to give that up. And so he's going to rule over all. He's going to do this. And he says that if you approach him, if the Orcs say, you suck as a GM, we're going to take that away from you, and say, okay, well, then trade me. Kyle is going to become accustomed to having that control and power. Kyle loves his power. He hoards it. And therefore, is this possible? No.
This is kind of switching topics, but you do touch on it on your article, and I kind of Breeze is basically trying to say, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It was a 10 o'clock game on the 49ers body because they had
body clock. Yeah, I made this point on Twitter, and I agree completely. Yeah, but that's not everything, though.
Be that way.
Yeah,
that's not a reason to not worry. Their game against the Giants is also a 10 a.m. game, body clock game.
Yeah, and so speaking of the Giants, we should probably cover that before we go. Yeah. So looking at the Giants, here's the main thing. They've got this great front four that can terrorize a quarterback, but they can't stop the run. They've given up 400 yards plus in the last 2 games on the ground. So what the Niners need to do is the Atlanta game plan. They need to rush McCaffrey 40 times or whatever it takes. And Trent had a terrible pass pro game, but a great run blocking game against Houston. It was his highest PFF run blocking grade of the year, over 92. So what you do is you run behind Trent and Kittle left a lot, and that's how you can win this game. You just play keep away, and you run. You run. The problem is that you're going to run, and you're not going to allow Christian to go off the field, and he's playing on MetLife. That's just you're whistling past the graveyard. If you give Christian a ton of run carries on this field against this defense, you're asking for it.
What do you think that they'll do defensively to get some pressure on Jackson Dart, if possible, / stop their run game? Obviously, the Giants just lost Cam Scatterboo. He had that same injury that Fred Warner does. I don't wish injuries on anyone, so I feel bad for him that happened. Sure. But their running back that replaced him, at least in the game on Sunday, didn't do poorly. So it's not
he
like
was okay. He's like 4 yards a carry.
Okay.
Yeah, he's all right. So what would the Niner defensive game plan be? Part of the problem with Jackson Dart is he's a good runner. He's run for over 200 yards. And so you need to contain him. So the plan is not to go all out at edge to try to get him. It's set the edge at edge to contain his runs. That's how you stop this team. They don't have receivers. Their receivers are bad, and they lost Neighbors. So they don't have anybody. Wan'Dale Robinson is their best receiver now. He's nothing. And Dart only has 140 yards per game, 60% completion rate, 8 TDs, 3 picks. He's okay, but he's not going to kill you. And so therefore, what you need to stop is the plays that are the back-breaking ones. It's the QB that evades the pressure and runs for a first down on 3rd and long. You can go back and find every time the Niners have given that up, it's almost guaranteed to be a touchdown for that team. Whenever the Niners give up that play, it kills them emotionally and they get beat. They give up a score almost every time. So that's what they need to focus on here is just don't let Dart beat you outside, contain him. Don't worry about the pass rush. We'll get a pass rush when we can if we blitz intelligently and blitz speed, and that's how we're going to go after him. But I think that otherwise you play straight up because the Giants don't have the weapons at running back or wide receiver to beat you.
Yeah. What I would say really quickly for our chat, I just want to correct this. MD Breeze says they're on the East Coast for a week. This is not true. They flew back after the game from Houston. They're in California and they're practicing at Levi's literally tomorrow. They used to stay on the if they had back-to-back trips. They've done this before. It would help them when they were on the road, but then when they would come back to California, they'd usually lose that game where they came back.
Right, which is why they flew back.
Yeah. So I don't know which one's the better decision. I
think sleeping in your own bed is always better. I think you fly back home.
What I will say is the body clock thing is very real. I think that someone else suggested this, so this isn't an original thought, but I think they should be practicing at 10 a.m. tomorrow on Thursday or on Wednesday on Thursday, Friday before they go. They should be practicing all week at 10 a.m. and they should have been doing that last week. The 49ers practiced last week at 12 and then at 1:25, I'm pretty sure, for I think they practiced at 12 on Wednesday and 1:25 on Thursday and Friday before leaving to Houston. I think that's a mistake. Just as someone who goes to the gym casually, if I normally go to a workout class at 12 and then, for example, before I went to Houston, I had a plane. So I went at 8:40. I felt like shit in the class. And that's just
you're just really sluggish.
Yeah. I was just not, even if I'm usually awake at that time, I'm not used to moving my body so vigorously at that time.
Yeah. Well, and your body has its own rhythms that it's accustomed to.
Yeah. The only way to adjust
and that's why you practice at 10.
To do it. Yeah. Over time. So that's a weird adjustment. Kyle Shanahan sometimes doesn't during rain games, he refuses to practice with a wet football during, when he knows he's going to have an early body clock game, he refuses to adjust the schedule. I don't know why he before has been asked about it and says it's like he thinks it's psyching the players out and it's getting their head too much. I think it's just called being prepared. I completely disagree with him on that.
Yeah, I do too. But Kyle's kind of Kyle. Kyle is an exceptionally stubborn dude.
Yeah.
He's not going to change.
So
we can say, you should do this. And Kyle say, that's nice. It's just, he's not doing it. We can point out a million reasons why he should. He will not. That's Kyle.
So I think that's a major mistake. That's why I wanted to bring that up. And then I wanted to say thank you so much, Badass, for joining us. We're going to be wrapping it up soon as well. Israel said, imagine if they had a game in Europe. Yeah, I mean, these are things, other minute details most head coaches take into consideration. And Kyle is so, like, he thinks his system and his game plan is key. And if you just execute perfect, everything, when you put your system above everything else, you start thinking of players as robots. And you're like, well, if I say X, you throw to X, it's going to work every single time. Then you just need to throw to X. And he's not taking into consideration that people are flawed and you have to, like, do all these little things to make someone more capable of throwing to X. Because if they're more tired, if they're lethargic, like the 49ers did not turn it on until right before halftime, in my opinion. Energy-wise, they just looked completely unprepared. And by the way, the 49ers had a rest advantage over Houston, who had just played in Seattle. And they looked like the more rested team. So I think it's very important to take in.
It is, but Kyle is focused on X's and O's, and what he wants most in practice is to see his system executed well. And therefore, he's going to practice when he wants to do that and thinks the team will be ready. He wants to see the team function well. He values that above everything else, as opposed to adjusting a human body clock. That's not something that's on the X and O's. Yeah. And that's not something that Kyle's therefore going to care about. Good day. Talking about Bryce Huff. Yeah. Bryce Huff's injury was the one injury too many. That's what did them in, because then they had no pass rush. And that's when CJ Stroud carved him up.
Yeah. Tom, do you have, okay, we'll end with a quarterback topic. I put it on, but then there was a big trade, so I forgot to touch on it. This will be our last topic of the day because it's going a little bit longer. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Tom, do you think that it'll be Bryce Huff, Brock Purdy or Mac Jones playing? Do you think MetLife's stadium, the surface, obviously it being known for injuries, has an impact? Kyle said it doesn't, but Kyle says a lot of things that he doesn't mean.
Well, Kyle, of course, is going to ignore that because he's Kyle. But, okay, you ignored that, and then you played on that surface, and Nick Bosa went down for the season one year. Remember that, Kyle? So, should he play Purdy? No. Yeah. You're going up against, you've got the Niner offensive line that had its worst pass pro game of the year. The Giants pass rush, their front four are beasts. And then MetLife, and you're going to put Purdy out there?
To me, stupid.
Yeah, it's just feeding Christians to the Lions. It's just, it ain't going to work. You can't do that. You can't whistle past the graveyard or just say, no, I don't care about that. You should. Why does your team get injured so much? Because you don't care about the human element?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's a sign.
Yeah, and as John points out, Bosa and Thomas went down on back-to-back plays on MetLife. Yeah.
Yeah.
That game, that field, eats players alive. And that's why they no longer have Neighbors. He got hurt on the home field, and he's gone for the year. So it's just, you have to factor that game in. I don't play Purdy. I don't play Pearsall. I don't do that. I don't play Ayuk. No, because you're just playing with fire. When you play on that surface on a guy that's just coming back from injury, and then you put him on MetLife, no. Yeah. Think. Not. Kyle, of course, will say, that doesn't matter. You're wrong, dude. It does.
When Kyle spoke yesterday, he said that they were going to evaluate Purdy and Pearsall and that they might be able to play. But I, like I said, would not play either of them on MetLife. And then in regards to Brandon Ayuk, Kyle basically shut down that was going to happen. He said it's still week to week for Ayuk, so I definitely don't expect him to be out there. But yeah, I mean, they did have Purdy travel to Houston, which if you're trying to, take every precaution possible, I don't know if I would have done with Purdy's toe injury, especially. I mean, he came back and already had a setback. You can't risk bringing him back on a surface where he could potentially injure himself again. I think that would look, the organization would look so incompetent. They already do with the way that they treated Purdy's injury. And especially Julie brought it up a little while ago in the chat. The Vikings look really bad right now with how they handled Carson Wentz and injuries. And I think the NFL said they're even looking into it. So teams need to be careful with how they're pushing these players to come back and return.
Yeah. And you have to I'm sorry. And you have to manage the season.
Yeah.
Can you beat the Giants with Purdy not playing, with Pearsall not playing? Yeah, you can. What do you need Purdy and Pearsall for? The Rams game the following week. Have them prepared for that game. Manage the season. What's the more important win? Giants or Rams? Rams.
Yeah.
Therefore, do you play Purdy? No. Do you play Pearsall? No. You hope that Ayuk can come back if he can, but no. And you do have to factor in MetLife. The injury history speaks for itself. That's the worst field in the league, the most injury-creating field in the league, and you're going to put Purdy out there just coming back from injury? That's a bad call.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And I don't think they will. I think that they will give the start to Mac Jones. My worry is that Jones has a contusion. Jones can get hurt, and then they'll have to put Purdy in.
Yeah, I had that same thought, and someone wrote like, "I'm worried about Mac Jones getting hurt." He's already been dealing with like a re-aggravation of his PCL that was aggravated this offseason, and then re-aggravated in a game a couple of weeks ago. Then it was announced he had a knee contusion, which is separate, yesterday. So yeah, I'm nervous about both of them. I don't even know if I would have Purdy be the number 2 quarterback. I think you might just put Adrian Martinez back there. They already kind of made that mistake prior. I would say you go into the game if Mac can play with Mac, and you just accept that if Mac goes down, you'd rather waive this game than waive this season.
Yeah, but Kyle,
if both Mac and Purdy go down, then the season.
So much for that.
Yeah, but you'd rather lose one Giants game.
Right. Is Kyle Shanahan going to think in those terms, even though it's completely logical and backed up by every fact known to man? No. Because Kyle's going to I need to win this game right in front of me. I'm going to put blinders on. I'm going to focus on winning this game. Okay. Why are you injured so much? Yeah. That thought process contributes to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Someone said that they don't think Purdy's going to come back till after the Cardinals game. That would be interesting. I think if he really is
maybe
feeling on the road to recovery, as they say, then I think he'll come back for the Rams game. I can understand maybe what you mean, because then he's facing the Panthers, and at least he's going against some bad teams, so that gives him an opportunity to come back and he could look better. But I don't think
the Niners or Brock would be willing to wait that long.
Yeah, I think Brock is a competitor and he wants to go out there. Yeah. Obviously within reason, like if he's still hurt, he won't want to push it. But if he can play, I think he's going to want to play. And I do think that probably the organization, and maybe this can be debated, but I think the organization thinks that Purdy probably still gives them a better option to win over Mac Jones. I don't think it's a huge difference in the way that some people might, but they probably still give Purdy the edge. So, win healthy at least. So I think if he's healthy for the Rams, they'd rather go with him. I mean, they paid Brock Purdy. They need to put some confidence in their starting quarterback, when he's healthy. I don't mean that they need to put him out there if he can't go.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely of the group that says Purdy should not take the field until he is truly 100%. The problem is with turf toe, you never really know what is 100%.
True. Yeah, it seemed and Purdy kind of said that himself after talking to some sideline reporters and Diane Orsini against the Falcons. They had that report that it's basically day to day, and if he hits it wrong, it goes all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of the injury.
So
it's reoccurring, and there's really not a lot you can do, and it's not an injury that you can get surgery on. 2% of athletes get surgery on turf toe. It's really rare, and it's only if it's a complete tear.
It might
So
be
Purdy's
something
going to have to just gut it out,
he's
and
managing
we'll
a
see.
lot,
But
right?
I would not play him in the Giants game, but I would play him in the Rams game, and I expect him to start for that one.
Yeah. And I think that turf toe might be something he's like semi-managing for the rest of the season until the
He's going to
offseason.
have to.
Put it up. Yeah. I want to say thank you guys so much. I think I'm going to end it here. It's an hour and 20 minutes. We went a little bit extra, but I didn't expect the breaking news. If you're joining us a little bit late, we talked a lot about the White trade that the 49ers made. Yes, it's an unknown player. They need some depth pieces. No, I don't think that this means the effort to get a pass rusher is over. I think they still need to make a move for a better starting caliber guy, but they needed multiple guys. They're down multiple guys. So one wasn't going to cut it.
Keon White isn't going to fill the role of being a consistent pass rush sack artist. So you need to do more. But when you give up a 6th and a 7th, you're going to get a talent like a Keon White. Don't expect a lot, but they needed him for this game because they were down to 2 healthy bodies at edge.
And like you said, even if they are able to trade for a bigger name, that trade probably won't happen until the trade deadline because so many people are trying to outbid each other that it's going to probably be one of those who's going to blink at the very last minute type trades.
Absolutely right. I think this is a deadline where a lot of stuff's going to happen really late. And as it happens, the deadline is next Tuesday, right before we stream next time.
Yay! So everyone, please make sure
we'll have a lot to talk about then.
Yeah. You thought this show was busy. That's going to be an important one. Make sure to give me a like if you're watching this. It really helps the channel and helps boost out the content. Give me a subscribe. I appreciate it. Make sure to follow Ninercast Tom Jensen on Twitter. Most of our topics today came from his 2 most recent articles. It was 7 questions that came out of the Houston game or something like that. I forget the exact title. And then also, following the Houston loss, what trades should be made. Tom, I mean, his articles are full of names, exact information, anything that you want to know about a player, about the strategic way that the 49ers are thinking from their perspective, and then also what Tom thinks. He does a good job at saying, like, this is what I would do, but from our history of watching the 49ers, this is how they're going to behave. So gives you a really good look into the future for the future Giants game, and then recapping that Houston game. Please make sure to go read those articles because they were a huge help. I always get the majority of our topics from those articles, and especially today, because like I said, I'm dealing with that ear injury or ear infection. I was really tired. So I was in bed, like reading Tom's article, basically coming up with topics directly from that. So give Tom a huge, high five for that, and make sure to check out his articles.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, really appreciate that. This was a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff going on, and thanks to the chat for all your energy and questions.
Yeah, the breaking news pumped up my
chat
energy.
was great today. Chat really helped us. So thanks, you guys, and thank you, Ashley. It was a great time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Love you, and I'll probably do a little shorter video tomorrow after practice to give you the injury updates because it seems like they change daily based on the new information. So we'll see Purdy and Pearsall in practice tomorrow in California, and I'll let you know if they're full go, limited, not going at all, etc. Thank you guys so much.